everyone, myself Falguni Solanki. Welcome to our channel. Today we will continue our session with Book Hornbill, Lesson 3, Discovering Tut, the Saga continues. This lesson has been written by A.R. Williams. Let's see about the lesson. Notice these expressions in the text, infer the meaning from the context. As we discuss in every lesson, here we have expressions and we have to understand its reference context to our lesson. So before we start our lesson, here you can see a picture. So lesson completely based on this picture. He was just a teenager when he died, the last heir of a powerful family that had ruled Egypt and its empire for centuries. He was laid to rest, laden with gold, and eventually forgotten. So now here you can see the picture of this person. He was just a teenager यानी कि it's time to 12 to 19 when he was died. And he was the last heir. Now what is the meaning of heir? Last heir यानी कि last inheritor या successor of the family. Definitely now with this word last heir of powerful family, there is a little bit hint that this lesson belonged to any king or any empire family. He was laid to rest laden. Laden यानी कि loaded with gold and eventually forgotten. As we know, it's customary of Egypt when someone died, especially it's belonged to that king family, then they put all the jewelries, precious jewelry when they buried the dead one. He was laid with gold and eventually forgotten. With time, society, the empire, people forgotten him. Since the discovery of his tomb in 1922. What is the meaning of tomb? Tomb यानी कि an enclosure to bury the dead. The modern world has speculated about what happened to him, with murder being the most extreme possibility. So he was forgotten after his death, but during the time of 1922, when his tomb was discovered for any purpose, that time people again remember him, and there was a speculation. Speculated it means form a theory without evidence. जैसे कि हम लोग हवा में किले बनाते हैं ना, हवा में बातें करते हैं कि ओके यहाँ पे ऐसा कुछ हुआ होगा, ऐसा कुछ हुआ होगा. तो यहाँ पे people just spread their speculations about the death of teenager, and most of the people thought that definitely it was murder. Why murder? Because it's common in that era that if you belong to any powerful family, especially like emperor family, then definitely it was chances to be killed by someone because of that सिंहासन for power. Now, leaving his tomb for the first time in almost 80 years, Tut has undergone a CT scan that offers new clues about his life and death and provides precise data for an accurate forensic reconstruction of the boy's pharaoh. Now, next news was that now leaving his tomb for the first time after 80 years, and Tut was the first who will be undergone a CT scan, and after CT scan there will be a revealing of his life and death. After CT scan they will find that new clues and reason behind his death. So that's why here they mention that provide precise data यानी कि deep description and that complete clue about his death. And forensic reconstruction यानी कि the process of recreating the face of an individual. And boy's pharaoh, why the word boys used here? Because he was died when he was just a teenager, so it's a boys. And a pharaoh it means ruler in ancient Egypt. जहाँ पे एंसेंट इजिप्ट में जो रूलर होता है उसको pharaoh बोला जाता था, like king, तो वहाँ पे वर्ड होता है pharaoh. Let's see our lesson. And on next page, before we start this one, in the first para, I repeat again, it's a story about the Tut, and he was a teenager when he died. He was the last heir or successor of his powerful pharaoh family, and his family members ruled on empire for centuries, and he was laid on rest, heavily loaded with gold. His tomb was discovered in 1922, which made the world raise a question about his death, because after all he belonged to a powerful family, and there was a suspense behind his death. After almost 80 years, his body was about to undergo a CT scan, which would give a new information about his death. Look, his body was discovered in 1922, but after 80 years, that body undergo by that CT scan process. So the body discovered in 1922, after 80 years, यानी कि in 1992, his body undergo by the CT scan procedure, and there will be that time in 1992 there will be a new news or new clues about his death, because he was died more than 3,300 years ago. There is no any information in this lesson, but if you will do the Google, you will find that stories and truth of that Egyptian era, and especially this pharaoh ceremony. And this one is also a real story. Most of the time, mostly in 6 months or 8 months period, if you are interested in news reading, you will find some information about this Egyptian pharaoh, about their tomb, about their life, suspense or mysteries behind their death and life. Okay, now let's continue. An angry wind stirred up ghostly dust devils as King Tut was taken from his resting place in the ancient Egyptian cemetery known as the Valley of the Kings. So now it's a description. An angry wind stirred up ghostly dust devils as King Tut was taken from his resting place. Now stirred यानी कि move, and ghostly यानी कि airy and unnatural, like unreal. Resting place यानी कि place when someone is resting, but here the resting place it means graveyard, जहाँ से graveyard से उनको बाहर निकाला गया था और उसको CT scan के लिए ले जा रहा था. That time the wind was also angry because someone touched their hair, their king, and that completely wind was giving like ghosty dust devils, जैसे कि कुछ horror thing वहाँ पे होने वाली है. And the Egyptian resting place of the Tut was an ancient Egyptian cemetery. Cemetery यानी कि a large burial ground where the dead bodies was buried, and especially its Tut was belonged to the powerful family, king's family, so they had different area for their graveyard. And here you can see that there is a Valley of Kings, so definitely you will get the meaning of this from the end of your page, and meaning is the see map on next page. Now on the next page you will see that Valley of Kings at the place where that Egyptian royal family buried. Let's see the page. Okay, here you can see that in your textbook, you can also go with it. Valley of Kings, here it is, and here we have exit place of tomb of Tutankhamun. This Tutankhamun It's a name of our king Tut. इसका full name है यहाँ पे. Here in this map you can also see that the place of Egypt, like Africa, Asia, and here the location of Egypt. Then here you have that desert, river, and it's also described the exact place of Egyptian graveyard also here. And in this story we will also find different names of king which was around or the same time of our Tut. So back to our lesson. Dark-bellied clouds that scudded across the desert sky all day and now were veiling the stars in cascade grey. So dark-bellied clouds. What is the meaning of dark-bellied clouds? Dark belly यानी कि dark in color. Scudded across, it means moving quickly. The desert sky all day. यानी कि जो विंड वहाँ पे लाइक घोस्टी इमेज क्रिएट कर रहा है वो वहाँ से डेजर्ट स्काई जो एरिया लाइक लिटिल बिट डेजर्ट एरिया वहाँ से पास हो रहा है और वो लाइक बहुत फास्ट वहाँ पे क्विकली वहाँ पे पास हो रहा है. तो ऐसा लग रहा है जैसे कि क्लाउड कैसा है, डार्क बैली है. एंड नाउ वर वेलिंग द स्टार्स. वेलिंग यानी कि कवर. स्टार्स इन cascade grey यानी कि a small ornament box, or in different meaning we can say that a chest for holding jewels, letters or other valued objects. The exact meaning of cascade grey is it means that the grey clouds were like a grey color cascade. Now जैसे कि हम लोगों को पता है when some person died in Egypt, other people put their letters, jewelry with that tomb. Why? Because they thought that they need, यानी कि that person who died, they need all these things. And here the also thing was like that. When that tomb of Tut was discovered and they took his body for CT scan, all the atmosphere was changed and it's create the ghosty image. And here the narrator writer explained that how was the day when they took the dead body of Tut for CT scan, because they thought that the dead body of Tut was opposing the way people treating him. It was 6 p.m. on 5th January 2005. The world's most famous mummy glided head first into a CT scanner brought here to probe the lingering medical mysteries of this little understood young ruler who died more than 3,300 years ago. So here on first time, on 5th January 2005, timing was 6 p.m., the world's most famous mummy. Why world's most famous mummy? As we know, in Egypt, That is the dead body which we known as mummy, and it was glided. It means quiet or continuous motion, and his head was first time undergo this procedure of CT scan. Before this start, no one tried to CT scan any mummy's body. And finally, after the procedure of CT scan, probe यानी कि investigate, they will find out that the mystery behind the death of this young ruler. Why young ruler? Because he was died when he was in his teen age. All afternoon, the usual line of tourists from around the world had descended into the cramped rock-out tomb some 26 feet underground to pay their respect. So all the afternoon, when the tourists and the local people came to know that the tomb of Tut was here after 80 years they discovered, they all were there. Why they were there? To present their respect. Descended यानी कि moved or gathered, and cramped it means very small to fit into. वहाँ पे बहुत कम जगह थी वहाँ पे खड़े रहने के लिए, लेकिन still they were there to present their tribute or their respect towards their younger king. Rock out it means made in a rock by cutting it. जो tomb है वो कुछ इस टाइप की बनी हुई थी, and 26 feet underground to pay their respect. Wow. It's depend on countries how the ritual they follow. So in Egypt there was a ritual to pay respect to their earlier kings, and here Tut was a special attraction because he was died in his younger age, and mystery behind his death was still unrevealed. They gazed at the murals of the walls of the burial chamber and peered at Tut's glided face. The most striking feature of his mummy-shaped outer coffin lid. So here there is a description of his coffin. How was Tut's coffin? They यानी कि people gazed at the murals. Murals it means a painting or other artwork executed directly on the wall here on this coffin of Tut. Walls of the burial chamber and peered at Tut's glided face. Now what is glided? It means the covered with the thin sheet or coating of gold. जो उसकी पूरी body थी मम्मी जो उसको हम बोलते हैं वो completely covered with a thin sheet or coating of gold, and the most striking feature of his mummy shaped outer coffin lid. उसकी जो coffin lid है जो उसका ढक्कन था वो जो उसकी shape था वो completely attracting था. Some visitors read from guidebooks in a whisper. Others stood silently, perhaps pondering the Tut's untimely death in his late teens, of wondering with a shiver if the pharaoh's curse, death, or misfortune falling upon those who disturbed him was really true. Now here there were tourists to discuss about the death and the time of Tut's family, and most of the point of discussion was that some visitors read from guidebooks because he died before 3,300 years ago. So definitely there was just a little bit information about Tut and his family. So they tried to gather information from guidebooks, and others also stood silently because they thought that it was untimely death, premature death of kings, especially in his teenage and late teenage. And they shivering, yani they were trembling with the thought that what happened if the pharaoh gives him that curse. Why curse? Because death or misfortune falling upon them if that pharaoh gave him bad wishes. And because why the pharaoh gave him bad wishes? Because they disturbed the resting place or the sleeping time of the king. And what's really true? What's really true? It means according to their customary, they believe that if they disturb the king or pharaoh, their misfortune will start. The mummy is in very bad condition because of what Carter did in 1920s, said Jahi Hawass, Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, as he leaned over the body of a long first look. Right now, this dead body of Tut was under the Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities. And he declared that the mummy is in very bad condition. Why it was in bad condition? Because Carter did in 1920s, in around 1920s, another person, Carter, did some experiment on it, or he tried to find out truth behind it. So, due to his experiment, the condition of the dead body was completely bad. And he leaned over the body for a long first look. Who? That Jahi Hawass. First look out that dead body, then he declared his statement. कार्टर होवार्ड, यानी कि ये जो कार्टर है उसका पूरा नाम क्या है? होवार्ड कार्टर, that is was the British archaeologist who in 1922 discovered Tut's tomb after years of futile searching. So here the word Carter. So who was Carter? The Carter यानी कि full name was Howard Carter, and he was the first person who belonged to the British archaeological department. And after futile efforts, futile यानी कि pointless efforts, finally in 1922 he discovered that the tomb of Tut. In contents, though hastily ransacked in antiquity. Now what happened? It contains, यानी कि जो रेफरेंस उनको मिला था वहाँ पे presently means present किया गया था कि though hastily ransacked, hastily यानी कि fast, rapidly, ransacked यानी कि raid or go through a place to steal or damage something. Antiquity, it means age, oldness, were surprisingly complete. They remain the richest royal collection ever found and have become part of the pharaoh's legend. Stunning artifacts in gold, their eternal brilliance meant to guarantee resurrection, caused a sensation at the time of the discovery and still get the most attention. But Tut was also buried with everyday things he would want to be in the afterlife: board games, a bronze razor, liner, linen, undergarments, cases of food and wine. So, again I explain here. When they found or checked all the necessity things with the pharaoh, they found that the pharaoh belonged to the richest royal family. Why? Because he had all the richest collection, and it's a part of pharaoh's legend. Part of pharaoh's legend, yani ki, as I told you before, when someone died in king's family, they put all their necessity or needy things with their dead body. And here stunning artifacts in gold, बहुत सारी artifacts यानी कि जो चीज़ें हैं गोल्ड की, ज्वेल की, वो वहाँ पे रखी गई है. The eternal brilliance mean to guarantee resurrections. Resurrection, it means their afterlife. Caused a sensation in the time of discovery. In 1922, when that dead body of Tut was found, all the people, researchers were stunned to see the royal ornaments or the things which they put there for the use of tut, pharaoh tut. And here the word, as I told you, resurrection and restoration of life, because they believe that after death they have another life, and in that life they need all the things which they used in their previous life. But the Tut was also buried with the everyday things. Now, which type of things Tut had? Board games, why? To pass time, a bronze razor, linen undergarments, cases of food and wine. All these things, whatever he need after his death. After months of careful recording the pharaoh's funerary treasure, Carter began investigating his 3 nested coffins. Now what happened? In 1922, first of all, Carter found the dead body of Pharaoh Tut, and after months of carefully recording of Pharaoh's funerary treasure यानी कि the things, valuable things with which the king was buried. As a government officer, he had keep all the records of the things which he got with the dead body of the Tut, and he did it. Then Carter began investigating his 3 nested coffin. उसकी जो coffin है कैसे थी? 3 nested coffin यानी कि 3 coffins placed one in another in order to decreasing size, and the innermost coffin house the body of the deceased, यानी कि जो मर गया, जो नहीं रहे, पास आउट हैं, उनकी बॉडी को वहाँ पर रखा जाता है और उसको 3 nested coffins उस तरफ से बनाया जाता है कि उसकी कम साइज में बहुत सारी चीज़ों को वहाँ पे रखा जाए. Opening the first, he found a shrouded urn with garlands of willow and olive leaves. First of all, when he opening the first nest of lid of coffin, he Carter found that shroud यानी कि covered a length of cloth which covered the dead body. Adorn यानी कि decorated with garlands of willow and olive leaves. So willow यानी कि यहाँ पे flowers है, leaves है, उस completely उसकी cover की गई है. While cereally, lotus petals and cornflowers. So इतनी सारी चीज़ें हैं. The faded evidence of burial in March और April. जो यहाँ पे सारी चीज़ें रखी गई हैं, ये सारी चीज़ें give hint towards the time of his death, and his time of death was March or April. Why March or April? Because all the things which they put, necessary things like leaves and all that, it mostly found during the March or April. That's why there is a first assumption about his death, and his time was March or April. When he finally reached the mummy, though he ran into trouble. For finally, he यानी कि Carter, when he found all that dead body, यानी कि 1, 2 and 3 layer, he ran into trouble. The ritual resins had hardened, cementing Tut to the bottom of its solid gold coffin. No amount of legitimate force could move them. Carter wrote later what was to be done. In his theory and all the documents which he presented his research, he mentioned that was a problem when he found the dead body, exact place of dead body of the Tut, and the ritual resin had hardened. Who here ritual यानी कि resins used in the cemetery of म्यूमिफिकेशन, यानी कि जो मम्मी को वहाँ पे रखा जाता है उसके लिए उसको लॉन्ग टाइम रखना होता है, तो उसके लिए जो रेजिन यूज़ किया जाता है वो बहुत ही हार्ड था. और इतना हार्ड था, रेजिन बोले तो स्टिकी फ्लेमेबल सब्सटेंस दैट इज़ इनसॉल्युबल इन वाटर, तो वो बहुत हार्ड था, वो इजीली ब्रोकेनेबल नहीं था, तो वहाँ पे कार्टर को थोड़ी सी प्रॉब्लम हुई थी. और लेजिटिमेट यानी कि रिजनेबल, वहाँ पे आप कोई भी नॉर्मल फोर्स लगा लो, इट वाज कम्प्लीटली वेन, यूजलेस, क्योंकि वो अनब्रोकेनेबल था, वो वहाँ इजीली ब्रोकन होने वाला नहीं था. कार्टर ने उसके रिसर्च पेपर्स में लिखा था, व्हाट वाज टू बी डन, व्हाट शुड आई डू टू ब्रेक दैट रेजिन. The sun can beat down like a hammer this far south in Egypt, and Carter tried to use it to loosen the resin. Now there is one concept that sun can beat that like a hammer in far south in Egypt. जैसे कि वहाँ पे एक प्रोवर्ब था कि कोई भी चीज़ हो वो सन उसको इजीली ब्रोक कर सकता है. So now Carter used that power of sun, the heat of sun, to break that or loosen that resin. For several hours, he set the mummy outside in blazing sunshine that heated it to 149 degrees Fahrenheit. Nothing budged. Now what happened? He put that mummy, dead body. Here the word exactly mummy, it means a body of human being or animal that has been ceremonial preserved by removal of the internal organs or treatment with natron or resin, wrapping in a bandage. हम लोगों ने मूवीज़ में बहुत देखी मम्मीज़, राइट? तो उस मम्मीज़ की बात है यहाँ पे. So what did Carter did? Carter put that dead body of Tut in 149 degree Fahrenheit. Nothing burst, यानी कि nothing found. There is no clue that sun heat can also loosen the resin. He reported with scientific detachment that the consolidated material had to be chiseled away from beneath the limbs and trunk before it was possible to raise the king's remains. So now here Carden tried to use another trick, and for that what he did, the consolidated material had to be chiseled away beneath the limbs and the trunk. उसने जो वो मटेरियल है वहाँ पे थोड़ा सा मूव, उसको थोड़ा सा वहाँ पे हटा दिया है. बिफोर इट वॉज पॉसिबल टू रेज द किंग्स रिमेन, उसके और बॉडी पार्ट्स को जो रेजिन से स्टिक की गई होती, मीन्स फिट की गई होती, उसको हटाने से पहले एक ट्रिक्स यूज़ करता है. मे बी ही it was successful to remove it. Let's see again till here. We will discuss the story. As we started our story with the dead body found of the younger pharaoh Tut in 1922. After 80 years, research or CT scan was undergo the Tut, who was died before 3,300 years ago. Now it's a mystery for the people about his death because it was still unrevealed, the reason of his death. And first thing, when the dead body was taken to the CT scan, a strange and fast unnatural wind has blowing as Tut's body was taken from his graveyard, and it's called the Valley of Kings. And as ancient Egyptian cemetery, यानी कि the place or location where the Valley of King situated. And all this happened in July 5th, 2005 at 6 p.m. And people were gathered there to know the reason of the Tut's death. And they also was scared because they thought that if something happened wrong, then definitely they will victim or they will be part of the curse of Pharaoh, and it was completely misfortune for them. And as Zahi Hawass, the Secretary General of Egypt's antiquity, he discovered that the mummy was completely in bad condition because the years ago the Howard Carter did some experiment on it, and due to that the condition of mummy was completely worse. So the next part we will discuss in our next session. Till then, just keep watching and thank you.